Okay, so good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second keynote of the day at Birmingham Tech Week. We're thrilled to have you join us for this session and delighted to have Alex Arundale join us, who's the Chief People Officer at Advanced. Alex is going to be talking about why your people matter most, embracing cultural change. And Advanced, of course, have a big office here in Birmingham and do a lot for the Birmingham tech community. So based in the mailbox, one of the largest employers of tech people across the city and region, and do some phenomenal work both in private and the public sector. So, of course, the week is being run in association with Tech Nation, the West Midlands Growth Company and Department for International Trade. Do a hell of a lot of work across the West Midlands to support kind of tech entrepreneurs and businesses, helping them kind of start up and scale up, but also access to international markets as well, both from an export point of view and also an import point of view as well, and attracting inward investment. So great to be working alongside those three great organisations. And a thank you, of course, to our 2020 sponsors, NatWest being our lead sponsor this year. Thank you to all the work they do across the tech landscape of the West Midlands, especially with their Entrepreneur Accelerator. And then Copper, BJSS, Sidetrade and BMET. Thank you to you all. And today is People and Culture Day, and that is being sponsored by Culture Group. So I'm just going to say a few words about Culture. So Culture Recruitment are a dynamic and rapidly expanding Birmingham-based agency, founded only 3 years ago by Jamie Wills and Lawrence Sidwell, following extensive careers working for large global recruitment businesses. They share and mirror Birmingham Tech Week's passionate ethos and values in adding value and giving back, creating genuine communities across Birmingham and the West Midlands. Culture Recruitment has extensive and proven experience in the tech sector in providing sales, marketing, and tech talent. They also run the largest free-to-attend thought leadership groups across the region as well. Now, they also do some tremendous work in the community. They work very, very closely with Cure Leukemia and also Suited for Success. So thank you to all the work you do there as well. And of course, thank you to all our partners. Going to give, as I've been doing all through the week, a shout out to a few. I'm going to give a shout out to the universities. So Aston University, BCU, and University of Birmingham. Obviously helping us with, creating kind of the new talent coming through, but also a lot more than that across the region as well. So thank you for being a part of it. And thank you to all our partners as well. So at this point, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to kind of start a conversation with Alex. So Alex, first of all, Alex, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here. And you've just shared some thank yous for some of those really important partners. And equally, I'd say the same, because they actually contribute such a huge amount to developing talent that then we get to take advantage of. So I'm delighted. So it's wonderful work that they all do, and I say we're very appreciative of it.
Absolutely. Now, I've had the kind of the honor and kind of privilege of kind of being on a few panels with you now, so I know you very well, but the audience kind of maybe don't. So maybe you can just kind of give us a bit of an intro to you and kind of your career and kind of role at Advanced.
Okay, so I've worked in HR for all my life, 25 years now, which I can't quite believe. The last 5 years have been at Advanced, and my role is Chief People Officer. So I'm very proud to have such a role, such a title, and for Advanced, it's been an incredible journey. What Advanced do, we make a difference to millions of people's lives, and that sounds, is that kind of a throwaway? It's really not. We deliver, people market-focused software and services that are designed to make the complex simple. Once again, it sounds really easy, it's really tough. But we are in markets such as health and care, which of course can't be more important, quite frankly, in this day and age. Business management, legal, education, another really key. Finance, HR, of course, my hobby horse, and many other areas. So we really do spread across everything, quite frankly. And our approach from a people perspective is certainly around potential. So we have always been very strong advocates for, we don't believe in CVs. We don't see CVs as part of our recruitment process. We believe in speaking to people, getting to know them, discovering their potential, sometimes the potential they don't even know they've got, and then helping them to believe in themselves, and then developing their careers and showing them, the opportunities that this wonderful tech world has to offer. So we're really proud of the fact that we've got, I think it's over 400 now in our mailbox office in Birmingham. I'm not personally based there, which absolutely annoys me, because every time I get to visit that office, it is like I've just kind of woken up and kind of gained or kind of gone back to kind of my 20s or 30s, and the level of energy and enthusiasm in that office is incredible. And it's been a journey from, I think it was 4 years ago that we opened, to now over 400, and so many entry level who, I say, have been kind of developed by all these important organisations that you partner with, and they've come to us for that next step in that journey. It's a delight working with them, and it is genuinely a really delight to be based and have a really important base, which is our largest base in the UK. To be based in Birmingham, it's wonderful. Like I said, very, very genuinely.
And it is a great space. I mean, I've got to say, until about a year ago, I'd never been, and like I probably walked past it kind of 50 times and never really noticed it. And then kind of to walk in and see such a cool space in Birmingham was great.
It is amazing. I mean, it's Harvey Nichols is in the building, and I wish I could afford it, but it's, to have that moment walking through the mailbox and then walking into work when you pass these, iconic businesses as well, the BBC. It honestly, it is a real delight, and I know that our employees really enjoy that community as well.
Absolutely. So to say a lot has happened this year would be a massive understatement, right? And I'm sure along the way you've had many kind of difficult conversations. And I know from kind of speaking to you before, you're a big kind of advocate of having uncomfortable conversations. So why is it that you feel that is so important, Alex?
So first of all, I guess the premise is to have a difficult conversation for me requires trust, absolutely, and it requires engagement. So in order to be able to do that well and have the right outcomes, you need to have all of that kind of in your melting pot. And I think the example of and all the experiences that we've had this year have been, for me, a really positive experience in terms of developing trust and confidence with our employees. And of course, you're seeking to do that every time, every year. But this last year has been about sharing business metrics, data, talking to people's fears and concerns, sharing your own to show that vulnerability, to say, let me tell you how I'm feeling, because you're probably feeling the same. And I think sometimes people find it hard to think that, the chief people officer, does she really experience the same, fears and, what as everybody else? Yeah, I really do. Probably my chief fear was, quite frankly, having to then homeschool my children. Yes, that was a horrific, horrendous, and also beautiful experience, in equal measures. But in terms of then difficult conversations, as I say, the journey that we have been on, and I think it's important, I guess, to share our journey, because it's the same as so many businesses out there. Our journey started with going down into lockdown. What did that mean? And the first few weeks before that happened, there was such concern, such emotion from people. People really, venting that emotion because they didn't know how else to share it. And that was really hard. That was really, really tough to deal with. Am I coming into the office or not? And we took some time to say, we need to get ourselves ready to make sure that we can then go to work from home and retain everything that you need to be productive. So there were some really tricky weeks. Never having experienced it, I certainly don't pretend to say, oh yeah, I've got this playbook, I was ready for a pandemic, and absolutely not, I would be a liar. But that experience, going then to lockdown and feeling that myself, allowed us to then building a different way of communicating. And we started to do weekly CEO briefings, which was normally our CEO, Gordon Wilson, and myself, sharing, what we're hearing in the news, sharing our thoughts, our views, and then starting to say, how is it impacting us? We had never been so transparent, not because of anything to hide for any reason, just you don't need to on that, weekly, monthly basis in, normal times. And it was really important because we had to build the kind of pattern of the year to then eventually we then did put some people onto furlough, and we needed to explain why we're doing that. So the narrative of for us to say, why are we doing this? So that, ready for HMRC in the future, are we clear on our narrative of why we're doing this? What are the data metrics that create that situation? And equally, how will we know when we want to come out of that? What will be the metrics that we will need to see? So all of that came together, and I've never had such a positive response to effectively, negative news. But because we were open, because we used very genuine language around those, those things that were happening to us, it was a great response. People very appreciative, very understanding. And then when we started to eventually, as we kind of moved through the months and came out of needing these weekly briefings, people go, where have they gone? Don't stop. But you've got to pivot at some point, and you've got to move to a new world. And that was about, prioritizing business decisions, going through, keeping the communications, and then, as I say, pivoting to a new format. So that for me, trust and engagement to have the uncomfortable conversations was clearly the most important thing. And also the conversations around mental health. That is something which, again, in years gone by and in my 25-year career, certainly maybe the first 10, 15 years, just wasn't something we particularly spoke about. Now, and certainly this last year, that's not all we speak about, but that is a huge majority of it. And for us to share our own mental health. So I'm a real believer of, we have good and we have bad days, and we have days in the middle. And the more that we can share and help someone understand, this is the day, this is how I've woken up, this is how I'm feeling, it helps people just interact and collaborate in a different way. That they would be my top call outs for how to go about having those uncomfortable conversations.
Fascinating, yeah. And I just want to delve a little bit more into kind of that area of vulnerability, because I think it's something that as a tech industry we probably don't do very, very well. We've all heard of the kind of toxic kind of bro culture that has kind of stemmed from the United States and kind of found its way into the UK and kind of Western Europe as well. So talk to me a little bit more about how, when people are feeling vulnerable, that should be embraced and not seen as a weakness.
The starting point is absolutely. You have to lead, though. I'm a genuine view is that you have to lead by example. People will have fear to share that vulnerability. I am known from my team, and if any of my team are ever watching this, they're like, yeah, we know. I don't stop sharing, so sometimes too much. But I think that's a really good way to role model. I'm feeling this. This is what's happened, even if it's just moans and groans with the kids and husband and just things that are happening around. But to be able to say, I feel, and use words such as that, which is not normally the kind of the business language that you would expect, and but it's the right set of language for us to bring into a healthy working environment. And I think that's the key to it. So sharing transparently, what's going on. I used to do an exercise with a team I was previously part of, where beginning of a meeting, you would just take a moment to say how you're feeling. And what it enabled everyone to do was get a sense for how to interact in this meeting during this day. How is this person going to, react? And if they do react, can I understand that reaction and not have judgment because I get it? And I think all little techniques like that we bring into the workplace now are really important to help people feel free and feel fearless to share how they're feeling. Of course, there is sadly still a small stigma, I think, around mental health. And that's improving. That really is improving. But again, I would be a liar if I said there wasn't, of course. And that's where there is still some fear. That's why this is still a conversation to have. But the more that we call that out, the more that we share our experiences as human beings living in a weird world with everything that's going on this year, not just COVID, but of course all the events that we know that have created a new dialogue around diversity and inclusion this year. All of these things are impacting our mental health, and we need to say I feel, and to give platforms, give support as well. It's not just about, hey, we join a meeting and we can share and feel fearless. What support mechanisms do you put in place to help people who need something else? Employee assistance programs, those types of activities, mentoring relationships, in a company. Just making sure that you signpost people to as many different areas as possible, because once again, one size doesn't fit all, and people try different types of support and it's not quite right for them, but it's perfect for somebody else. And it's giving people confidence to try different things. There's a particular exercise that I remember my own sister, and I've shared this quite openly at work, my sister gave to me through one of the hardest, most personal moments in my life. And it was she called it like 10 rungs on a ladder. And the first day when I was bawling my eyes out and just all over the place, she just, a simple question, where are you on the ladder? Not even on the ladder, not in that first rung. I can see it, but I'm not touching it yet. And then the next day she called me, where are you? Oh, well, I'm touching the rung. And then eventually I was like, 7, 8, and and then you come out of it. So there's all kinds of just very simple techniques, but also important, I say, structural support mechanisms that you need to have in place to continue to encourage freedom to share with whoever you need to share with. I think that's critical. That I say, the more we talk, the better. And eventually, it doesn't need to be a conversation. It's just how we are. And I don't think that's too far away, honestly, in my own view.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because we are kind of synonymous around the world with the kind of stiff upper lip, and I think that kind of there is a shift in the British culture. We are becoming kind of a more open and transparent society, and I think that's probably one of the positives to come out of what we've seen so far. But talking about kind of open conversations, I should have said this at the start, but obviously kind of everyone that's on, kind of feel free to use the chat and Q&A, whichever one you want, as I will be kind of asking kind of Alex some of your questions, both throughout this conversation and at the end. So please do get involved in the conversation as well, because it's, even though it's virtual, very much still about kind of collaboration and engagement at Birmingham Tech Week. So yeah, kind of moving on. And funny enough, talking about collaboration, I know collaboration is a very important aspect of life at Advanced. How do you think that's helped drive change throughout one of the hardest periods at the organisation?
So once again, I think you become, sadly in a way, surprised, or suddenly you're articulating things that perhaps you'd taken for granted. So going back to those, those kind of dark days going down into lockdown, and we're all scrambling around going, I don't even know what to think about next. What's the priorities? Who's got what? Who has equipment? Who doesn't? How do we help them? For me, it was about having friends in the business. So calling out to IT and internal communications and just, all the teams, quite frankly, what part are you going to play in our business continuity journey? Because that's really what it is. And we quickly put together a business continuity team covering every area of the business that we could think of, just to say, what do you think? What do we need to have on our kind of list of items that we work through? What's the priorities now? How are people feeling? And coming back to the mental health, the feeling about people, obviously part of business continuity. Whereas in the past, when I've talked about business continuity, it's about, well, if that place floods, how are you going to turn the lights on, and how are you going to pay this? And, is that type of thing. Totally different conversation now when we're talking about business continuity. And I think it's been, it really has allowed people to step up and have a new platform to share the importance of, quite frankly, every role in the business, because you needed everybody to be on the journey. I absolutely needed IT and facilities to help us understand how do we change people from, office to home to be productive, interactive. How do we then, coming out of lockdown, as we have done, how do we make sure we get those areas back up and running? And the things I've learned about Legionnaire's disease and all the different possible horrific things that can happen if you don't have your facilities back up and running in an organised way. Well, I have been educated in an incredible way. So it required everyone to bring their things, their knowledge, their skills to the table, ask questions that we probably haven't even asked before, and in a very short time frame. So the collaboration that I have seen, which was always there, suddenly was a heightened focus. And of course, we're all accountable in this, and we're all responsible for the actions that we're taking, the advice. And what I saw was just everyone throwing ideas in. Let me help. Let's see what we can do. People who would, pack up their cars with, IT equipment and drive it to people who couldn't then get into the office because of their COVID vulnerability status. Just wonderful moments, heartfelt moments of people caring about others. And that's not just about trying to keep a business running. It's about caring that people were okay. And that, for me, has just been, a beautiful moment in this experience. And as you're taking each of the decisions that we've taken as a business, I say we've had a couple of office closures within the UK, we've had furlough, we've had some redundancies, sadly, which once again, I think a lot of businesses have also experienced. But all of those things require a collaboration of people to understand, to help educate others, to help that communication journey, because it's not just me sharing, it's everyone, it's our managers, it's our leadership, it's all employees. Everyone was part of collaborative work and efforts to make this positive. And I'll say that the one of the most wonderful moments, albeit obviously with we're taking a slight dip in the journey at the moment with the recent announcements from the government. But in September, we had a return back to the office. And I think about the mailbox and our people walking through to the mailbox and everything feeling safe. That was a really important thing for people to feel. Do you feel safe is a key question for us to ask them. First of all, I've got to say, the mailbox in Birmingham have done an incredible job of creating a safe environment for people to, walk, take those, tentative baby steps and feel good about it. And of course, then what we have to do is make sure that we're mirroring and, making sure that that's a very equal experience walking through our doors. So having everything in place and making that an exciting journey. We created videos that look like some sort of Halloween kind of set. It's like, you need to expect this is what it's going to look like. But that's about building, people's views and thoughts. And I'll say that only comes about with collaborating with all departments, making these things happen, putting them in place in time to help people feel safe and secure. So, yeah, I can go on and on about collaboration, but I'm sure you've got some other questions that we might want to work through. But super critical. And once again, I think it speaks to trust and engagement in a business, for everyone at the moment.
Oh, for sure. And kind of, a big part of collaboration is having the right tools in place to kind of facilitate that collaboration. And of course, Advanced is kind of one of the biggest tech companies in the United Kingdom. So I'm really intrigued to know kind of what role technology has played in that transition from, an office environment to a remote environment back into the office, and then now probably more of a blended hybrid model. So yeah, how has technology helped you?
Yeah, it's everything, quite frankly. I say from the starting point of move to lockdown, can everyone from home access everything as they would normally do? Have they got equipment, first of all, and then can they access? So we had to do a lot of creative work in the early days, because we're a business that we have a huge office presence. We want to be part of the communities. We think that's a really important part of what Advanced is. So that is still our future. And we need to find the way that we can enable, say with everything safety in the lockdown, but enable still that connection back to the office and the workplace. So, so that's the first primary thing. And then we needed to use our technology to ensure people could access anything at any time. So, you know, for all businesses, the move to the cloud is just one of the most important things that if you weren't on that journey before, you're probably on it now. And if you're not on it now, give us a call, quite frankly, because you really need to be. So for us, moving even just our HR system, so we have Open HR, we've moved to our cloud HR product, fundamental to be able to have people access everything in their normal way. I need to have people accessing workflows. So we were building workflows all the way through to tell us your COVID vulnerability status. Are you in the early days, are you self-isolating? Just recently, you know, the world hasn't stopped. It's not just about COVID. Diversity and inclusion now is an incredible force that requires data. It requires data to have a really important conversation, and for us to take that next step forward, that requires us building workflows, going out, and people being able to access to share that data. So, you know, all of those things, nothing stops when it comes to people. You've got to keep it going. And so you've got to be able to access that. We had a desk booking app that we created. So again, you know, we're very fortunate as a tech company. Yes, we can do these things. We've got brilliant people who go, I've got an idea. Let me go and build something. And they build a desk booking app that we've now launched across all of our offices. So that, again, we could do our own track and trace. People could feel confident that what they were booking as a desk had the right area around them. And that, you know, if they wanted to see who's going to be in on a particular day, we continue to build that collaborative and community spirit, which is so important to Advanced and very important for us in the mailbox and in Birmingham, because that's a big part of, you know, what people want from their experience. We have got a lot of entry-level people as part of our organisation, and it's just for entry level, but entry-level people around them. They want the social aspect. A lot of them have come from a university, and this is their first step into working, and they're used to a vibrancy. So, you know, making sure that they could have that as they're, you know, walking back into the office, and then using technology, as I say, when we have these moments where we're all from home, learning what people have got around them, who's going to walk in on them on a video call. But all of that still requires technology to create, say, a vibrancy of community. And I think that's probably, you know, one of the most important things with respect to mental health that we've understood has to be supported by technology. So I think it's worked well for us. But I think it's worked well for us because we had things in place. It wasn't perfect. You know, we have upped our game absolutely through the last 6 months, probably just like many other, you know, big businesses who equally probably had some complacency. No one can be complacent. we've learned that, but that's what technology does. And, you know, it's a wonderful business to be in. It's a wonderful industry to be in, because the creativity that I've seen as well, you know, forget that just can you access things. It has forced people to be creative in new ways. And that for me is the spirit of technology. It's what else can we do? How do we take that to be more interesting, or take that dull task and have that more automated to create thinking and brain time for us to do more interesting things? So technology is, quite frankly, it's not the be all and end all, but my goodness, it has been an enabler, which we've never had the likes of or been able to articulate before.
And I think that's a really salient point. You know, it is that combination of human and tech together. You know, technology should really kind of make things easier for us all. That's what technology's kind of biggest role should be. And therefore we can either enjoy more of the stuff we like to do, or become productive in different areas where we deliver more of a high quality experience to customers and stakeholders and everyone else. So yeah, really, really interesting point there. And again, just kind of building on that, what do you think the future of a workplace looks like? Because I think kind of at the moment, kind of the jury's out, but there's a lot of debate around that kind of topic.
Yeah, so absolutely, and it's evolving. I think there is still, I would say, a large part of the workforce who hope or expect things will get back to how it was. But as time goes on, like it's not doing, is it? It's not doing. I think for us, and as we spend a lot of time listening to our employees and kind of watching and seeing how they work differently in this new environment, I think for us, the future is a more flexible approach. Regional centres are critical for bringing that community spirit together to allow learning in a different way. So we've moved a lot of our learning, because we had to, into a more virtual existence, using all this technology and be able to see people on screen. But we absolutely recognise that where people, this is perhaps their first job, they need to have something else. It's not just, I'm going into a webinar and then I go away and do my work. It's that touch point of someone just around them. They're needing to talk, to share, to kind of look panicked and someone spot it and go, is everything okay? You don't have that if you're working from home and not on screen. People can't see it. So unless you have a panic button, which I'm certainly not recommending that anyone brings in, but that's where people together is important. So I genuinely believe that it's certainly those early onboarding days for people, new roles, first jobs, that touchdown time is critical. I think we have to teach people how to work from home well as well. So I think we have now a different responsibility to help people find the balance and learn the skills of, if actually it's raining outside and I'm working from home today, what time do I get out of bed? 5 to 9, and then quickly scramble on and then go, oh, my video's not working because I'm still in my pajamas. Not that I've ever done that. But, how do we, get a kind of, a professionalism, especially for people who are learning this, and a structure to help people get into that way of working? How do we make sure that, that whole structure works seamlessly together? It's that's incumbent on us as employers to do that thinking, but we have to watch, we have to listen to the experience, and that's certainly what we're hearing. Is it is going to be a hybrid of where we were before. I think that's going to be a very healthy experience for people.
Yeah, I agree. I think so, as someone that's worked in a hybrid environment, probably the last 6 years or so, it very quickly becomes the new norm, and as an individual how to kind of context switch and when you need to be with people collaborating and when you need to kind of be working from home. And I think kind of the way I've kind of tried to kind of articulate it is, in my personal situation, home working kind of very much gives me the ability to do deep work, important work, and kind of be very focused. Whereas actually kind of there's nothing that beats kind of going into the office and collaborating with people in terms of creativity. It's really hard to replicate creativity in a virtual fashion. So that's been probably the biggest challenge for me personally.
I was nearly bringing home the other day a flip chart so I could put it behind me and go, right, this is how we used to do it, and literally create my flip chart. I thought, oh no, don't do that. But it's funny, those things that you just miss, those little tools. The other thing which I'd really mention as well is, and once again, I think a lot of young people, but once again, this is for everybody. Home sometimes is not a safe place, and I think that's a really important, part to mention as well. We have a lot of young people who perhaps also they're still living at home with parents, siblings. They're around a table where there's like 5 of them maybe at home, and people, all different people, trying to have video calls, and it's just not possible. So it's not right for some, and it's not safe for some. So having spaces which are there to enable us to flex and have opportunity for people to say, whatever is important to them, whatever is impacting them, we want them to feel safe. We want them to feel happy. I want them to feel that they're in, a community spirit. So that ultimately cannot be replicated, you cannot solve for that if you come entirely to this. And so for us, regional spaces which are set up more for that collaboration moments and that community spirit, not just a load of desks, for me is absolutely the future. It has to be.
Yeah, I completely agree. It just made me laugh because obviously the conversation we were having before this went live, and I remember having a conversation with someone probably about kind of 4 months ago, and saying, oh, I'm kind of loving this, if I'm totally honest. I'm so much more productive. It's really quiet and get work done. And they were like, you haven't got kids, have you, Yanis? And I was like, no, that's a very good point. I said, but actually, I've got one on the way. They were like, kind of obviously asked when it was due, and they said, right, okay, let's have this conversation in February, see how you're getting on. And I was like, yeah, it's so true, right? There's so many people in different conversations, and like you say, people that work, home isn't a safe place. So actually, kind of going to work is such an important part of their lives, and also kind of about kind of new employees as well. You obviously met Jonathan, who's been kind of helping me kind of with Birmingham Tech Week and done a fantastic job. Jonathan's first role out of university, he doesn't know any different. And I remember him saying to me the other day, it's been great meeting all these people, but I wish I could meet them in person. I wish I could actually collaborate with them in a physical environment. And yeah, I think the office is far from dead. I just think it will kind of go for a transformation.
Entirely. And one of the things that we're doing now is actually considering, now that I say we started going back into the office, now we've started going back out, and it's the exceptional circumstances that we're very supportive of people still going in. But now actually just looking around those workplaces and saying, how do we now take this opportunity whilst actually people aren't in to change this up? Let's freshen this up for the way that we are going to work in the future, that we're already starting to consider now. And that's quite exciting. And it's exciting to involve some of the employees in some of those conversations, because they know what they use and what they don't use. We have an office in a different location, and we put some cool stuff in a few years ago, but it's cool stuff that no one uses. So let's learn the lesson from the cool stuff that no one uses to the stuff that people want, that may be cool or uncool, who cares? But it's going to make that environment, that collaboration, far more interesting and productive, quite frankly. So there's been a lot that we have learned, I think, in what we've done in the past and what we can do in the future. And it is absolutely for us to just take advantage of this moment to do that refresh and that reset. Absolutely. And we're very lucky with our office in the mailbox. It's huge, it's beautiful, open plan. We can do wonderful things in there. There's so much space. It's a real joy to kind of play with that space, quite frankly, with our people. So we've got to rethink about meeting rooms, because of course, the standard meeting room and how you would use that at this moment and for the foreseeable future, it's kind of, it's unusable space. So we need to think differently about all of those aspects. And I say, for me, I'll always find the positive in anything. It's my job to do. But that's exciting. And it's exciting for our employees to be part of that journey. And for the new starters, we're still hiring people into our business. And as we hire them, we need them to understand what they're joining. And not to feel alien in 2-3 months' time. So part of that is being physically in, and as I said earlier, about training and helping them understand how to work the balance. Because for me, working from home, going into lockdown was the first time I properly worked from home. I was always odd 1 or 2 days. Now it's all the time, and I've got to learn, how do I live with working in here, my husband 4 meters away in a different room, and just just those different interactions that you're having, and doorbells going and things like that you never had before. It's all a new world.
Oh, it is indeed. And I'm going to start opening it up to Q&A now, actually, because we've got some really good questions coming in. So yeah, please do kind of use a chat functionality or Q&A to ask a few questions. So the first one is from Ricardo, and he's fascinated to know more about your recruitment process, because you mentioned no CVs, and I guess in a world where we're getting a really big digital skills gap, how do you make sure that you're hiring people in the right way?
So we're very proud of how we hire. So we hire with, quite frankly, no judgment, no bias. The removal of CVs allows us to ask more interesting questions, quite frankly, of a candidate. What would you do? How have you, experienced what behaviors? So we talk a lot about behaviors because we can train knowledge. That's not a difficult thing to do. But you have to have behaviors from individuals which allow them to be able to take in knowledge, take in a different journey. And so for us, we run things like assessment centres, which allow us to test candidates, not test, but in a really nice and more genuine way, and allow them to be themselves. So, people have, I think, preconceptions that an assessment centre is where you're going to have to be the craziest and the loudest and show yourself as a leader. And that's not how we do things, because, again, we're a large employer. And so we also have the opportunity to watch, learn, and to understand the talent and the potential that each individual has. And we have so many different types of roles where different behaviours and skill sets are such strengths in those that we can generally find very exciting starting points that perhaps sometimes those candidates haven't even considered. So I love it when someone is, I'm applying for sales, and we go, actually, we feel maybe kind of customer support you have an intrinsic skill set, which we think you'll do really well. We'd like to test that out with you. How does that feel? And we also believe in internal mobility as a company. So, I say we hire kind of without that judgment. And then we critically move people through different roles and opportunities. So 60%, I think, or 65% of our internal roles last year were successfully hired through internal mobility. So that is saying aggressively, we will take you on a journey. We will hire you for your potential, and then we will spot that opportunity, and we'll push a little bit in a very nice and supportive way, and we'll help you on the journey. We'll hire you before you're ready, because we think that's the right way to then help support you and give you skills, rather than, I've seen so many people trying to get into HR and marketing, which seem to be the kind of exciting areas to be in. And they say, I can't even get a job interview because I've not done it before. And I find that sad. That's sad for people entering the workforce. And I totally understand it. I understand it having been perhaps part more of a traditional based employer in years gone by. But that opportunity to say, I know you've not done it, but I believe you can. Let's help you. That, for us as an employer, is more interesting, it's more exciting, and it creates diversity. Creates diversity of thought, without a doubt, within our teams, because people are coming from different backgrounds, not even necessarily at first thinking this is going to be my career forever, or even a starting point. And we help people find their way and find, test out their different, their skills and their strengths, and find a journey. So it's, hopefully that gives you a spirit of how we do it. And I would say, we are consistent. That is how we do it at every level. So that's not just entry level. We hire senior people without CVs. So, there's no difference. I will never have read a CV in our business, no matter what level, whether it's C-suite or entry level. It's just not how we do things.
Very interesting. Yeah, and I think that diversity of thought is so important. I remember when I was kind of building a team at a scale up, and we had that demand of, we need people because we want to do so much more, and we can do so much more, and our customers want us to do so much more. And I remember my boss saying to me, kind of, if you hire someone like that again, we're gonna have words. And I was like, okay, kind of, what does that mean? I was like, are they not good enough? And he was like, no, they're brilliant. I think they're great. But you keep hiring people who are the same as you. And he goes, that is a kind of, don't take that as a criticism, because, you won't know you're doing that. He goes, we all have a human intrinsic nature to kind of hire people and kind of, gravitate towards people who are similar to you.
Right.
But actually, without me knowing that, I was, expressing a bias, and actually Hugh in the chat has said there, kind of, recruitment always has that hidden bias, right? And I think you're right, Hugh. I don't think kind of it's very, very difficult to eliminate bias completely. But on that, Alex, obviously kind of diversity and inclusion, big thing, right? How are Advance kind of trying to tackle that, and kind of make sure that you've got a more diverse workforce coming through?
So we have certainly been on a journey since, say, the events of June this year, which clearly played out, certainly in America, and have then, taken over the world. I think, in my view, in a very positive way. And this is a difficult subject area. People are a little bit scared, a little bit uncomfortable to go into the subject. And I think the thing I've learned this year is uncomfortable is good. Uncomfortable means actually, yes, we're going to make some mistakes, but on that journey, hopefully we're accelerating a positive impact. And, let's excuse some mistakes along the journey, but more important for us to be accelerating about it. As a business, I would say our whole premise on unbiased recruiting was absolutely seated in encouraging diversity of a workforce, encouraging our workforce to be representative of the communities in which we are hiring. One of the things that I have learned this year is a naivety in what we didn't do was collect data. And of course, in my heart and in my head, I thought, that's great. We don't want to collect data that someone might accuse us in some way, or that might weirdly create either positive discrimination or just some other bias that we hadn't intended. But what it doesn't mean is that I can speak strongly around data and diversity characteristics in our business. So that's been a learning curve for me this year very quickly. So one of the things that we have just done very recently, and we have a wonderful executive board member in Chuka Ramuna, who people may have seen on the news and heard before, but Chuka has joined our business. And in the early days, I had a conversation with him to say, I'm struggling with what we do here. And he gave us real confidence to say, go get your data. Wonderfully, he created a little video for me to share internally to express, his view on this and his encouragement. And we've sent out a diversity workflow to our employees. So we've got 2,500 employees. And within days of launching this, it's like over 1,600 already have submitted their diversity characteristics. And I'm so grateful for the trust and engagement in our staff, which I say has probably come from the COVID effect, quite frankly, of building that trust and confidence to give us that data. We are now working through next steps. So we have asked people to step forward as diversity champions to educate us. So I am not the right person to say, we're going to do this and this is why, for many reasons. But everybody who is representative of certain diversity characteristics are the people who will share their experience and lead. So we're creating a different platform of leaders to educate those of us who feel that actually this is not the right place for the chief people officer to lead. I am part of the conversation, and I'm a foundation to supporting, but I'm not the right leader for saying that many reasons. So asking people to step forward, we're just starting that journey of dialogue and discussion and creating platforms to create a new way of dealing with inequity of opportunity. Because I can carry on hiring in the way that we do, but sometimes people won't even come through that front door to even be considered. And why is that? So we have to look back at all the systemic things, and how do we as a good, caring, conscious employer, how do we influence that? So I'm probably kind of rambling off now onto so many things because it's such a big subject. But for us, data, I think, has been a big point that we've needed to bring into our next phase of considering, what should we do next, and making sure it's an open dialogue. And it's not for me, I'm very, I'm being quite pointed in language internally at this point as well. It's not for me to give permission for people to step forward. No, it is a platform there. Please step onto it. Please help us. Please educate us. So the language around this is important because, we're learning a lot. So we're going to make some mistakes. But as long as we're talking and we continue to be bold and fearless around that, it's important. And our values underpin this as a business. We already had established values, which when I have once again shaken them against this new new way of looking at diversity and inclusion in a more accelerated way, they still hold. And in fact, they still really support our next steps for looking at diversity. And for Birmingham in particular, it's again, look at the wonderful, multicultural society and community that we have here. And I want to be able to say we are representative, but we're working through our data. So I'll be back to share that. And where we are not, we will take action. But there must be systemic action, not just, I don't believe in positive discrimination. I believe in doing systemic things that create opportunity and have, quite frankly, a far more long-lasting impact to the world. So hopefully that answers the question.
Oh, it really does. Yeah, I think kind of, making sure you've got the right people in the organization leading those initiatives, and probably people who put themselves forward is critical. I know for a fact with kind of Birmingham Tech, we experienced a similar thing. I had a conversation with someone and they said, look, we should be doing more around diversity and inclusion. I was like, absolutely. But we're a team of volunteers. There's, we're a not-for-profit, therefore limited resources, but 100% agree with you. Kind of go on then. And that person was Dan Hoff Rodriguez, and kind of, him and Naomi Nash, who also kind of, and she's from Tech Nation, kind of went, yeah, we'll take that on. And they've done a great job of kind of, really kind of, having those conversations, difficult conversations with people from across the tech landscape. So if there are any organizations on the call that would like to know more about how to kind of, not just tackle diversity inclusion, but just be part of the conversation, then please do get in touch, because I think Alex's point about finding the right people to lead there is integral. So I've got a one from an anonymous attendee. So obviously they didn't feel brave enough to share their name. But following your insight on hiring for potential, I wanted to flip that once they are in. So the old adage of someone does the job they are aiming for before moving up the ladder. And what are your thoughts on promoting for potential?
Yes, that's exactly what we do. So I say internal mobility is the critical factor for us. We are hiring for the potential for the next jobs and to continue to develop their careers and develop our business. So say 65% last year of our internal vacancies were filled with internal applicants. That is effectively, we have an entry level, I will call it the engine of our business. It's coming through, it's actually encouraging people to take the next step. We ask people and we encourage people to take the next step before they're ready. And that takes bold, fearless steps for the individuals and for us as a business. But what we do is support that. So we have loads of different development programs internally that support different initiatives around that. For example, aspiring managers. Once again, how many times have I seen in historical organizations, you're interviewing an external candidate to be a manager, they've never been a manager before. Oh, you've not got the experience. I mean, what a dull attitude to have, to say no to somebody for what they might be as the most incredible manager who is going to innovate and motivate and inspire people. But you've got to give them a first step. You've got to give them an opportunity. So we have an aspiring managers program, which the first step of that is, before you really want to be a manager, let's show you what it is. So we have assessment centers internally, which give people the opportunity to kind of test it out, feel the emotional journey of being a manager. Being a manager is not easy. It is the hardest thing I do, quite frankly. And so, people need to experience that so they can say, actually, do I want that career journey, or do I want an individual contributor journey? Because both are equally important and both can have compensation growth and career growth. So let's find if you actually really do have, once again, those behavioral characteristics and you're going to enjoy it. Because if you don't enjoy being a manager, you're probably not the best manager out there. And we care about our managers being good. So aspiring managers are, is one example of that, to give people the opportunity. And again, we internally hire the same way that we externally hire. We do not use what they have done. We encourage and we train our managers to talk about what the role is, how would they lend themselves and some of their experience, but to this different approach. A lot of this is about training managers to think differently about hiring. And if you don't do that, they never will. And that's, for us, that was an incredible journey. I mean, I think we've cracked it now. That was 2 years of me probably having to just be really quite stern and people just not very like me very much. Going, we're doing it differently. But to help them understand how to use competency-based interviewing for the future role, rather than, well, I'm going for this future role as a team leader, but I'm asking them questions. What did you do in that support case or something? Who cares? Are they doing that in this role? No, they're not. So, drop the ridiculous, useless questions and ask something more exciting. I think it encourages managers to have to be more creative and care more about what am I asking and why am I asking it? What answer am I looking for? So yes and yes, that's what we do. And we do it all the way, through, once again, up to top levels of our company every time.
And I think it's really important, again, not to necessarily look at just the work they've done at the organisation, because I remember one of the best managers I've worked alongside. She had put herself forward for a managerial role, and I remember kind of sitting with the rest of the senior management team. We were all a bit kind of confused because we were like, kind of, we've never really kind of seen this person demonstrate kind of managerial skills internally. So it would have been easier in that situation for us to go, let's just kind of dismiss it out of hand. But I remember one person in that room kind of saying, no, I'm gonna take her for a coffee and just kind of see where it's come from and see kind of what's behind it. Anyway, transpires that this person was basically organising and managing a team of 100 volunteers for a charity in a spare time. Now, if that person isn't a manager in the making, then I don't know what is. And we kind of promoted her, and she went on to be one of the best managers we'd ever had. So yeah, I think we need to kind of, and I think kind of, again, the pandemic has enabled us to do more of that, is understand what people do outside of work and how that actually benefits that, or could benefit that organisation as well. So that's great to see. So we're about on time. I mean, just before we do go, Nicola Wright from West Midlands Growth Company is just seconding what you said. So she says, I second that. Advanced recruitment days really help with them sourcing people from all backgrounds and with every personality type, as it's about how you think and your ambitions. Pleased to hear about their diversity and inclusion focus to take this to the next level. So yeah, a bit of a shout out there from Nick, and yeah, kind of a kind of lot of love in the Q&A and chat. So thank you, Alex, for taking your time, and thank you for everyone that's joined us as well. We've got someone from Tanzania on the call, someone from South Korea, someone from the States, and someone from China. So wow, incredible. So just as we do wrap up, Alex, a big thank you for taking your time to be a part of today, and just for such a kind of enlightening, open, transparent, and kind of honest conversation. I'm sure it's going to benefit a lot of people.
Thank you so much, and to everybody.
Bye-bye.